starting in the 1930s with The Most Dangerous Game, 1932, which was shot on the same sets as a little movie called King Kong. Co-stars Fay Wray, who was also in King Kong, and Joel McCrea. It's tight. Everyone should see it, especially people who are making action movies today. A lot of fun. Next is The Woman in the Window and Scarlet Street. Now, that's two movies, but they're closely related. They were released within a year of each other. Both were directed by Fritz Lang. Both starred Edward G. Robinson, Joan Bennett, and Dan DeRay, about a main character who is sick of his life, meeting Joan Bennett, and sees their life destroyed. One of them has a very different kind of ending. I didn't like that ending when I first saw it, but you should see them both. They knew how to edit back then. They knew how to make a tight little movie in and out, and you remembered it. Next is Ride the Pink Horse from 1947. Robert Montgomery, criminal who's on the hunt for revenge in a very unusual location for a film noir. For the 1950s is It Came from Outer Space, 1953. Aliens who crash land on Earth and start taking over the members of a desert town. It was an influence on Close Encounters. Incredible Shrinking Man, 1957. This is up there with 2001, Forbidden Planet, and Blade Runner in terms of perfect science fiction movies. Brilliant ending. Some people say the ending is a little corny. I don't agree. I think the ending is one of the greatest in science fiction. Next is The Prowler, 1951. Van Heflin as a dirty cop who responds to Evelyn Keyes thinking she sees a prowler. 1951, there's some brutal stuff in there about the cops. Odds Against Tomorrow, 1959. Harry Belafonte gives a great performance, as does Robert Ryan as a racist criminal who's working with Belafonte, and Ed Begley Sr. Gloria Graham shows up briefly. They could have used more of her, but it's a definitive film noir using a social justice subtext, as is the Crimson Kimono, starring Glenn Corbett, the guy who invented warp drive, and James Shigeta, who ran the Nakatomi Company. Crime story involving racism, unusual for the time romance. 1960s, the one movie from the 1960s I'm picking is The Deadly Affair, 1966, with James Mason doing a John le Carre story. It's a small scale, very little violence, and if you like the Smiley adaptations with Alec Guinness, I suspect you'll enjoy this, because it's as much about James Mason's personal life as it is his investigation of a man who confessed to having been a communist and then killed himself. I've watched this movie over and over again. I haven't quite figured out why, but that's okay. Between the Lines, 1977. When I post about comedies or light dramas here, no one seems to enjoy those videos, but this, I would push this on anybody. It's about the final days of a Boston counterculture newspaper. It has a fantastic cast: Jeff Goldblum, Mary Lou Henner, John Hurd. Movie about the counterculture dying. Miracle Mile, 1988. Anthony Edwards accidentally gets a phone call. World War III has just begun and the nuclear weapons are flying. Anthony Edwards has just minutes to find the new woman in his life, get to the airport, and get to the southern hemisphere before Los Angeles is wiped out. It's a small-scale paranoia, what-if story with a fantastic ending. Alien 3 work print. Its reputation was so low for a while, but the work print is a real revelation, because it shows not only how David Fincher wanted the movie to be, but also that it was impossible to make the movie he really wanted to make, because the material wasn't there, the script wasn't there. They never had a finished script, as someone says in the documentary on the Blu-ray set. It's a masterful, dark movie that takes no prisoners, and the people who complain that they killed off Newton Hicks, what did you want? You wanted a science fiction action movie. You wanted more pew pew pew. Well, this movie yanks Alien back into the horror field. And killing off those two characters is one of the smartest moves of the script. The 2000s, my pick is Session 9, filmed in an actual shutdown insane asylum in Massachusetts. Some men are hired to pull out the fiberglass from the building, and they start to sense that there is a presence there. When I was watching it by myself in my house, I turned it off and thought, oh, I have things to do. It was 1 a.m. What the fuck did I have to do? And I realized, oh my God, this movie actually scared me. And I sat down. So useful is the additional material on the DVD, because it shows you how easily this could have been screwed up by keeping in a plot line that they had filmed but decided to cut out. Next is Carriers from 2009. Starring Captain Kirk. It's about two brothers going through a world falling apart due to a virus. They have to get to the family's cottage on the beach for safety. A small scale story that manages to feel big. It doesn't feel cheap. The miniseries Chernobyl from 2019. If you haven't seen it, see it. The first episode shows the meltdown of the Chernobyl nuclear plant from one point of view, and then the final episode shows what was happening around outside of the control room. It's one of the creepiest, scariest horror movies you'll ever see. I spent the first hour saying the words, "Oh my God," probably 100 times. It's my Salinger year from 2020. Andie MacDowell's daughter plays a real-life person who went to work at the literary agency for J.D. Salinger. Sigourney Weaver plays the woman who hires her. It's a light comedy. It's very much a human story about a young person just getting out of college into the real world. My final pick is Pig from 2021 with Nicolas Cage. This movie has one of the most original final confrontations between two characters. I'm not saying any more than that.